All right, here's the question. Can you trust the fitting results that you get? Look, there are plenty of great fitters out there, but guess what? There's also going to be some fitters out there who aren't so great, who maybe aren't so honest. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you some little things that a not so honest fitter can do during your fitting to maybe influence the results the way they want them to go. And it's definitely something you want to be aware of. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm AJ here in the Elite Fit Golf Fitting Studio. And this video is all about some modifications that you can make to the launch monitor software that can influence the results you see during a fitting. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to go through a couple of the different ways that they can tweak the settings so that it looks like you're getting different results from what you would probably see on the course. We're going to start out hitting some baseline shots with no adjustments made whatsoever, and then we're going to move on and start playing around with some stuff. Now I've got my 7-iron here. We're going to use the same 7-iron throughout all the testing. For the baseline, I haven't done anything to any of the settings other than I've set an iron as the club I'm using, and I've set the distance to the pin at 200 yards. So here you see the numbers: 122 ball speed, 17-degree launch angle, 5,400 backspin, peak height 32 yards, carry distance 179, and total distance, we'll just say that too, 192. All right, those were the baseline numbers. That was all me, didn't make any adjustments there. So again, we're gonna hopefully make similar swings throughout this entire thing so we can really see what goes on when we start changing things. First thing we're gonna look at changing, altitude. Altitude is a setting I think is going to be on any of the big launch monitor programs. It's definitely on the GC Quad software here. And it makes sense to have it because if you're playing golf in different conditions, if you're playing golf in higher altitudes, ball's going to go further. However, you can also use it if you are a not so honest club fitter to make things look maybe a little bit better than they actually are with that new golf club. So we started out with just the default settings. It registers where you are and what the altitude is. So here in Atlanta, about 860 feet, I think is what it's set to as the default. Let's show you what happens if I go and change that and say, maybe make the machine think that you're out in Denver. Now the thing is, you'll notice when I made that change, you don't actually see any change on the screen. It doesn't actually show you that I've done anything. So if you're not paying attention, and you've got a sneaky club fitter, they could have just snuck that right past you. That felt pretty solid right there. Pretty darn solid. Go in. Another good one there. Look at that. Now if we look and we compare these two, now again, exact same club. We did not change anything other than the computer settings for the altitude. But if you bring up the table here and look at the numbers, well, look at that. The distance has gone from 180 to 190 average on carry, and the total, again, 10 yards higher. But if you look back here, ball speed, basically the same between the first set and the second set. Launch angle, a little bit higher. Spin, a little bit higher, but nothing here that should actually account for that kind of distance difference. The only difference is that we changed the altitude. So now let's go ahead and really jack it all the way up, and we're going to set the altitude all the way to 10,000. Pretty good swing. All right, as you can see, once again, the numbers as far as ball speed and as far as launch angle and spin remained very consistent. 203 yards on average carry and 210 yards total distance. Now the next thing, and you may be wondering, well, what happens, because you can also adjust the temperature on here. And so I've played around with that, and I'm going to show you the results from that. Interestingly, well, I'll just show you what happens. All right, so here we are. The standard default setting is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now everyone knows when it gets colder out, ball usually seems to go a little shorter. So what happens if maybe that less than honest fitter decides to make your current club look a little worse than it is? Can they do that using temperature? Well, we're going to see. We're going to set that all the way down to 32 degrees and see what happens there. Again, notice on the main screen, you do not have any indication here that I have made any sort of change to the temperature. So unless you were paying attention and watched me when I did it, you're not going to know it happened. All right, so as far as the temperature goes, you'll notice here, not as big a difference as we got with the altitude. Setting the temperature all the way down to 32 from 80, dropped the numbers a little bit. I also left the face just a tiny bit open, so that may have lost me a little bit of distance also, but you can see from this, again, ball speed stayed the same, launch angle stayed the same, backspin a little bit higher because the face was a little bit open, but 174 carry versus 179 carry in the default 80-degree settings. So it did make a little bit of change, but obviously not nearly the kind of drastic change that we got from jacking the altitude up and seeing the distance really increase from that. So does it make a change? Yeah, it looks like it, but not nearly the amount of change that the altitude adjustment had. Last thing we're going to look at is wind. And when we're talking about wind, well, you can change two different settings, both the strength of the wind and the direction of the wind. So I'm going to go up here and change the wind, and we're going to go ahead and set the wind to a brisk 20 miles an hour. Now, obviously, a large part of this and what's going to happen is going to be dictated on the direction. So first off, we're going to set it 20 miles an hour downwind. Oops, sorry, 20 miles an hour downwind, so that's 180 degrees. There we go. So now we've got 20 mile an hour wind going downrange. Now you will notice on this setting, you see it right up here at the top. So you can actually tell that I have adjusted the wind here. However, if you're maybe not paying attention to it and you're only looking at the numbers down that left-hand side, you could easily gloss over that and not notice that that change had been made. That was a little bit off the toe. It's going to have a lot of run out to it, it looks like. I think it's going to be pretty similar in the results to what we got on the first one. As you can see here, the carry distance didn't really change from our baseline numbers. In fact, it was slightly shorter because I didn't hit those quite as well. But the overall distance, 208. So total number 208. And while this may not be great when you're looking at a 7-iron, if you had this same sort of setup when you were hitting drivers, well, you'd be all over that because it looks like you're getting a ton of rollout on it. All right, now we're going to change it one more time. And let's say instead of trying to make a club look better, we're trying to make a club look worse. So what we're going to do here is keep the wind at 20 miles an hour, but we're going to set it to let's change it a little bit more. There we go. So now we've got wind blowing 20 miles an hour crossing from left to right. Let's see what we get out of this one. I thought I hit that pretty well, but it's an awful big slice on that shot. Huh. All right, let's hit. Well, I thought that felt pretty good, but had a pretty good slice on it, and man, it sure didn't go very far. All right, last thing I'm going to show you, we're going to switch that wind around. So instead of having into us, left to right, it's going to be going downwind, right to left. Should give us, now we know how this works, more distance and a draw type ball flight. Most people would love to see that in a fitting. So as you can see on the shot shape on that one, we had a little draw. Definitely plenty of distance, 216 yards total distance. Let's hit one more. So again, comparing our baseline numbers against what we just hit there, we saw 122 ball speed, 5,400 backspin, 180 carry, 192 total. And with the wind helping us, not quite as good contact, but still 121, call it ball speed, a little bit lower launch angle, a little bit higher spin, but 189 yards carry and 211 yards total distance. Now, the last thing I'll say about this is, at least with the wind setting on this program, GC Quad, you do see it right up there on the screen. You see the wind speed and you see the direction. So it's right there in front of you, assuming they show you all that data up there at the top. You can also see it just on the screen itself, because you can see, as a nice little effect, they've got all the trees in the background swaying because there's so much wind. So again, you can notice it, you can see the wind. The big problem with the temperature change, or the altitude change especially, because that one had such a major influence, is you don't know it. You can't see it. I don't see it anywhere on the screen where it shows what the altitude is unless you go into the settings and look at it there. So if someone, a less honest fitter, goes in and quickly changes that setting, you're not going to know it till it's too late. All right, so there you go. This is just a few different things you want to look out for, be aware of, because again, plenty of good, honest, knowledgeable fitters out there. But guess what? They're not all good. There are going to be some bad ones who are going to try and take advantage of the system and do whatever they can to sell you the clubs they want to sell you. And so definitely you just want to be aware of these, make sure you realize it, and make sure that, just think, you know, if it seems like, that seems too good to be true, might be. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you go down below, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos. Make sure you follow me on Instagram as well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.